Mr. Fern?
First, I'd like to thank PTA and the WEA for the invitation and for doing this. I think it's very helpful for the community. My experience is this will be the end of my 18th year on this school board. And I think the biggest issue I looked at when I sort of asked myself, should I run again or not, was the question, am I still fresh? Am I staying put with ideas? Have I been on the board too long? And when I honestly looked at myself, I thought that I'm still always interested in educational issues. I think all aspects of it, of student learning, of teacher performance. I'm willing to look at new ideas and blend them with some of the traditional things we've done that work very well. And I like being on the board. I like the relationships I've had the opportunity to develop with trustees over the years, administrators, teachers, and the two superintendents that I've served with. So I thought, in looking that over, that I should try for another term, and I'm pleased to be here tonight with expectations of 3 more productive years.
Okay. Mr. Vine, let me ask the question first, just so the audience knows what the question is. What experience and qualifications do you have that will make a positive contribution to the school board?
Also, thanks to the WEA and PTA for putting this together. I appreciate the forum and the opportunity just to share and find out what everybody else's thoughts are on these issues as well. But I think, my experience that I can bring to the school board would be my background in education, Bachelor of Science in Natural Resources, but it was in outdoor education and community development. And in that degree, we studied quite a bit about the impact of schools on a community, as well as the value of education. And I was brought up in a home with both parents were teachers, so grew up in a household that placed a high value on education, and as well as grandparents, all but one was a dentist, but the rest were all teachers or administrators. And so I guess I was just kind of brought up in the culture of being around schools a lot, and always having placing a heavy value on the schools and education. My master's, I just finished a master's last July. It was an MBA with a healthcare emphasis, just due to my work in field in healthcare with Kalispell Regional. But it was fascinating to do that degree online and learned a lot about the online environment and a virtual classroom and all of the pros and cons that I experienced anyway with that. Having classmates from Okinawa to Iraq to Miami Beach to the Bronx, it was a fascinating work environment for me. Group projects were a little bit more of a challenge, but I saw the benefits of the virtual classroom and some of the things that it can add to what is now our global economy and our global communication system. So I think maybe I can bring a little bit of that experience and its impact. 30 seconds, thank you. I worked for the Boy Scouts for 11 years, so I did work a lot with youth and with volunteers and also with boards of directors, and so I had a lot of great experiences with the Boy Scouts and the impact that level of education and leadership education and communications and team building has on young people. So I really appreciate what our teachers and administrators do and the time that they invest in our kids. So, and then it's my role as an executive with Kalispell Regional Medical Center. I have a board of 26 and also understand that relationship and how to empower a board and then also to take direction and provide information and education to allow the board to make more educated decisions. So hopefully I can help bring that here and address some of the challenges that we have as well.
Thank you. Mrs. Sorrentes.
The qualifications and experience I bring are, at this point, I believe my experience as general manager of Montana Coffee Traders. As general manager there for over 13 years, I'm responsible for the financial stability of the company, and that includes budgeting, monitoring expenses, forecasting expenditures. I also manage over 100 employees across the 4 locations. So on a daily basis, I deal with personnel issues, human resource issues, benefits, all the tricky things that it takes to run a business. I also served as a board member and an executive board member for the Children's House Montessori School for 3 years. And there I worked on the board to serve the teachers, the kids, and the parents, serve all their needs. And I think that those 2 types of experience do lend themselves to working as part of a board, representing both an organization and the community, and that's what I look forward to as far as group problem solving and collective thought.
Thank you. Mr. Watts?
So I think probably the biggest qualification or experience that I'll bring to the Board of Trustees is just a passion for education, for our students, our children, for ourselves through time, for the next generation. I, like Tagan, grew up in a household with a father who taught junior high school and high school. So quite a bit of value placed on the education system, public education in particular. I have 3 children in the district, 2 in the middle school and 1 at the high school. Specifically, I've been involved in the Whitefish School District in an active way since about 2008. I was in one of the community groups in the Speak Up Whitefish program in 2008. About a year later, was also involved in the kind of research and development activities that were a follow-on to that. Recently facilitated the parent and community group in the superintendent interview process for the 3 candidates that were superintendents. I am also on the board of directors of Whitefish Education Foundation, which is a nonprofit adjunct to the school district seeking to raise funds and interject them into the district to support curriculum enhancement programs, providing additional resources to teachers for specific projects, such as a kiln for the art teacher here in the middle school, or computer programs, handheld computer devices, those types of things. So I have that connection to the school district in particular. I had not had much experience with the school board before I started thinking about running, so since about February, I've been attending board meetings and trying to get an understanding of what exactly goes on, how much of it is policy and procedure making, and how much of it is strategy and change implementation. I would bring a tremendous passion certainly for change implementation, evolution of the strategy of the district, and practical solutions for realizing that strategy.
Thank you very much. Mr. Vaughn, we'll start with you for the second question. What will be your top 5 objectives if elected to the school board?
Well, I don't necessarily come in with a set agenda for anything that I'm hoping to implement right off the bat. I think in general philosophy towards education that I'd like to find out more about and learn were I to be chosen to serve on the board would be to find out more about the buzzword of 21st century learning and what is changing so much in the way that education is delivered, and what are the tools that are available for kids that maybe engage them more. So I guess I'm most interested in finding out, this seems to be a transformational time in our education system, both with the funding and also with the delivery and instruction portion. So I think those are 2 of the critical areas that I see, the change in times and the evolution of education, given the environment that these young people are going to be working in, virtual companies and different modes of communication that we didn't experience as young people in our education system. So I guess making sure that I take a step back and try to understand what the environment is that these young people, they're going to be, we're training them for jobs that don't even exist yet. So I guess I think that that's really a critical component of something that we address, and I'm sure then looking at the strategic plan, it looks like that's something that's definitely on our agenda. I think the strategic plan as we have it now, with a new superintendent and a couple of new, or two or more new trustees that'll be coming in, it might be a great opportunity for us to have some short-term orientation and strategisk plan, and just to get together and learn right off the bat, get to know each other better. Where are we going to start? Thank you. I'm the only one getting flashed in 30 seconds. Let's be the talker of the bunch, huh? So I guess, and then just would be to refresh that strategic plan. I saw it was renewed last year and updated, and so I guess just to take a step back and learn and understand that more together as a body, and with our administrators and teachers, try to figure out what those action items under those objectives are going to be.
Thank you. Ms. Varientes? Your time's up.
Is that even?
It's all right. Please, go ahead.
Okay, my objectives, coming from a customer service background, I feel that it would be very important to spend time in the schools. I spend a lot of time in Muldown, but I would need to spend more time in all of the district schools and actually get to know the staff at the schools. I did go on the websites and look through all the pictures, which was really fun. I knew a lot of faces, but I would commit to getting to know the names and having one-on-one communication with our staff and our teachers. I also see an opportunity to have more open lines of communication. I think that we could have a communication set up on maybe a less formal basis or more regular basis so that the school staff and the school board have a little more of a connection and that the school board with the community also have more of a natural connection. I would also be interested in creating probably a grassroots public relations campaign. I know you can do lots of higher level production media things, but I think getting good press and good spin about what's happening in the schools, on the street, word of mouth, just positive things. You know, you hear people spend time talking about negative things, and I'm not saying there aren't things to improve, but I think some of the positive things aren't as put out there, they're not talked about as much, so I would like to do that. I would also be interested in seeing if school staff and administrators feel like there's enough opportunity for interaction between the schools and collaborative work between the schools. That just seems like each campus has so much on their plate and there's so much to do. I just wonder if the community could help in some way. And finally, I guess I would just like to continue to be a bigger part of creating an environment where we have very high standards and high success for all of our students.
Thank you. Mr. Watts.
So I'd start like Tag did with learning. A lot to learn in this role if I'm elected to the board. I do have some particular passions. They're centered around that buzzword. He also mentioned 21st century. That was a big topic in the Speak Up Whitefish, and that's really kind of what lit the fire under me in terms of kind of a passion for being involved in the district. Digging into and trying to avoid that being just a buzzword, digging into some of the specific things that I would be interested in pursuing. Certainly at the top of the list would be meaningful and highly integrated professional development for staff. I think that all of this is about what goes on in the classroom, and it starts with the teachers. And so a serious commitment to integrated professional development, continuous professional development. Other aspects of that 21st century concept that resonate for me, integration of curriculum, both the content and its delivery across classrooms, across subject matter, making it more hands-on, real-world practical. Related to that, expanding the curriculum to put value on and incorporate other literacies beyond the core subjects. A particular big passion for me, for example, would be foreign language, introducing it earlier into the student life cycle. Another area for me would be the facilities necessary to support that type of curriculum delivery. And then the last would, and probably equal to the professional development issue, would be community engagement. There are a number of reasons why we need it. We'll talk about funding a little bit later, but I don't think we can be successful in what we're trying to do with our current mission, let alone our 21st century mission, if we can't figure out creative ways to give community